Imagine swapping gridlock and crazy rent for a welcome check, free land, and a town that's actually excited you showed up. Across the United States, there are small places quietly doing something wild. They're offering cash, housing help, and tax perks to people willing to retire there. Not in glossy resort brochures, but in real city budgets and county programs. Your next chapter could start with a lower cost of living, a calmer pace, and more leftover money than you've had in years. But there's a catch nobody tells you. Pick the wrong dream town and you can burn through your savings, feel stuck, and wonder why retirement feels like just another job. So today, we're counting down 10 overlooked spots that flip that script and actually reward you for slowing down. One of them even throws in boxes of fresh food and free land like it's no big deal. By the end, you might realize the place you thought you wanted isn't the one that's best for your wallet or your peace of mind. Number 10. Omak, Washington. Think Mountain Valley, deep blue sky, and quiet streets where the loudest thing you hear most days is the wind. Omak sits in the Okanagan Valley, the kind of town most people would normally drive through without noticing. On the surface, it looks sleepy, but the numbers are wide awake. Day-to-day costs sit well below the state average, especially housing, which often comes in at a fraction of what people pay near Seattle. There's no state income tax, so your retirement checks don't get sliced up twice. Crime rates stay relatively low for a place this size, and you still have a local hospital instead of a 2-hour trek every time you need care. Outside the front door, you've got lakes, trails, and more rugged scenery than most national park postcards. The trade-off, winter feels like a long-term guest. Snow and ice hang around for months, and dark mornings will make you question how badly you wanted that peaceful life. But walk outside on a clear day, hear nothing but the wind and the pines, and you suddenly understand why some people never move back to the city. Number 9 is Gregory, South Dakota. If this town could put its promise on a sign, it might read, "Your money goes farther than you think." Gregory is a prairie community of roughly 1,000 people where basic living costs are so low it almost feels like a typo. Typical home prices hover just above 6 figures, the sort of number that looks unreal if you're used to coastal housing. There's no state income tax, property taxes are gentle, and healthcare is anchored by a well-rated local hospital instead of a distant mega facility. Crime rates are low enough that neighbors notice when anything is off, and most things are settled with a conversation rather than paperwork. For retirees on fixed income, that combination is huge. You can actually own your place, grow a garden, and walk to the coffee shop without wondering if you're about to outspend your savings. Local development groups even run programs that help cover land or building costs if you're ready to put down roots and join the community. Winters are tough with cutting winds and serious snow, and people really do drive on ice like it's nothing. So you have to ask yourself, would you trade big city convenience for a town where almost everyone knows your name and your budget can finally breathe? Number 8. Cumberland, Maryland. Cumberland looks like a historic rail town tucked into the hills, but its secret weapon is a relocation program that literally helps fund your move. Through city initiatives such as Live Cumberland, eligible newcomers can get thousands of dollars in assistance for buying or renovating a home. That's actual cash, not vague potential savings. Overall expenses land around a fifth below the national average, and typical home prices sit in the low hundreds, far less than what you'd pay in nearby major metros. You get access to a regional hospital system, specialists, and city services without paying big city premiums. Crime rates are lower than in many urban pockets of Maryland, especially in neighborhoods retirees tend to choose. On top of that, Cumberland is a walker's dream. Rail to trail paths, riverfront routes, and forested hills all close to your front door. You can hit a farmer's market, stroll past old brick buildings, and be home before your coffee cools. The catch, winter likes to show off. Snow can arrive sideways, then freeze over and dare you to leave the driveway. Still, if you can handle a few months of shoveling, Cumberland gives you more house, more history, and more value than most mid-Atlantic cities even attempt. Number 7 is Topeka, Kansas. This is the place that looked at rising housing costs and said, fine, we'll pay you to come here instead. Through the Choose Topeka initiative, newcomers can qualify for relocation awards that reach into the tens of thousands, with smaller amounts still available for renters and remote work. That money helps with down payments, moving costs, and the general chaos of starting fresh. Typical homes sit around the mid-100s, which means a 3-bedroom with a yard often costs less than a year of rent in some tech hubs. Kansas does not tax Social Security benefits, and if you decide to work part-time, the state income tax still isn't going to knock you over. Daily costs run roughly a fifth below the national average, covering everything from groceries to utilities. Healthcare is centered around a major hospital network with plenty of specialists and far fewer wait lists than mega metros. Downtown has been steadily refreshed with local breweries, coffee shops, and small businesses that feel built for residents, not tourists. Topeka's biggest crime is being ordinary on the internet, but for retirees who care about budgets and calm, that's exactly the point. You just have to decide whether steady winds and wide open skies sound comforting or annoying, because the breeze here likes to remind you it exists. Number 6. Lincoln County, Kansas. Some towns offer discounts. Lincoln County hands you the ground itself. Here you can apply for residential lots in selected development areas without paying for the land. Local programs also help retirees and remote workers with building costs or with purchasing existing homes, turning the idea of starting over into a realistic plan instead of a fantasy. The overall cost of living undercuts national averages by a wide margin, and Kansas tax rules mean Social Security checks go further for many residents. Healthcare, housing, groceries, and even utilities usually come in cheaper than what people are used to paying in crowded metros. On top of that, some initiatives provide boxes of locally grown fruits and vegetables to newcomers, supporting area farms while cutting your grocery bill. The population is small, just a few thousand people spread across the county, so it's nearly impossible to disappear into the background. You'll be dragged into festivals, farmers markets, and volunteer projects before you finish hanging photos on the wall. The downside is distance. You'll drive for big stores, concerts, or airports, and storms can make internet speeds fluctuate. But if you're dreaming about clear skies, open land, and neighbors who actually stop to talk, Lincoln County turns that picture into something you can afford. Number 5 is Belleville, Kansas. Belleville doesn't just invite new retirees, it practically hands them a starter kit. The town runs aggressive housing incentives that can reach tens of thousands of dollars for people willing to build, buy, or renovate within certain zones. When typical home prices sit under 6 figures, that kind of help can flatten a big part of your budget worries. Everyday expenses usually land far below national averages, so heat, power, food, and insurance all stay within reason. Serious crime is rare, and the biggest evening surprise might be a noisy owl or a wandering tumbleweed. Healthcare is tied into regional hospitals and clinics, meaning you get access to professionals without paying big city prices. Locals like to joke that if a famous coffee chain ever opened here, the town would hold a meeting, not about the menu, but about where everyone is supposed to park. Weather is dramatic. Hot summers, cold winters, and springs that can't always decide which season they want to be. Yet mornings in Belleville can feel like a calm movie scene. Sun coming up over fields, a soft wind, and a short walk to a cafe where they recognize you by what you drink. If your idea of luxury is financial breathing room and a community that actually notices when you're out of town, Belleville demands a spot on your short list. Number 4, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Unlike some places on this list, Tulsa isn't leading with a single big check. It's winning with a stack of smaller advantages that add up. Cost of living comes in notably under national numbers, especially when it comes to housing, which can be half the price of homes in coastal cities. Mid-range houses still hover in the mid-100s, and you're not trading away comfort to get that price. The city is packed with hospitals and specialist centers connected to major health systems, so routine and advanced care are close at hand. Retiree-friendly neighborhoods trend toward lower crime stats, and active community groups work to keep things improving. What really hooks people, though, is the lifestyle. Tulsa has a lively arts district, affordable museums, live music, festivals, and dining that doesn't require an executive salary. Commuting is generally painless, with most traffic jams looking more like momentary slowdowns than daily battles. Weather can be theatrical. Sunny one day, stormy the next, with a side of humidity or a tornado watch when the season hits. But for many people, the trade-off is obvious. A shorter commute, a real house, in a city where your retirement years still feel full and active instead of slow and isolated. Number 3 is Corning, Iowa. Corning looks like the sort of farm country town you'd see in a movie, but behind the quiet streets is a powerful equation for retirees. Typical home prices fall somewhere between $80,000 and $100,000, often for single-family houses with yards. Daily expenses run about a quarter to a third lower than the national average, which means groceries and utility bills stop feeling like constant surprises. With a population under 2,000, it's big enough to have essentials, a grocery store, cafes, churches, hardware, local events, without losing that everyone waves feeling. County and local programs can help new residents with renovation or relocation costs, especially if you're taking on an older home that needs love. Medical care runs through nearby clinics and regional hospitals, so you're not stranded when you need a specialist. People here don't just nod at you once and move on. They actually learn your name, ask how you're doing, and remember the answer. Commutes are measured in minutes, not miles. You might walk from your kitchen to the diner and back and call that your morning rush. If you replaced your current rent or mortgage with a much smaller payment and gained a backyard big enough for grandkids, pets, or a serious vegetable garden, how quickly would your stress levels drop? Number 2, Santa Rosa, New Mexico. Santa Rosa is the desert twist in this countdown, a small town with blue water, big skies, and a cost of living that quietly undercuts more famous southwestern destinations. Housing costs are significantly lower than in major cities, with typical homes in the mid-100s instead of the stratosphere. New Mexico doesn't tax Social Security benefits, and local property taxes are moderate, so your retirement income hangs on to more of its strength. Santa Rosa sits within reach of larger medical centers in bigger cities, while maintaining its own slower rhythm back home. Locals talk about sunrise walks, midday dips in spring-fed lakes, and nights spent watching stars instead of traffic lights. Route 66 history, small restaurants, and local events give the town character beyond its size. The climate brings huge amounts of sunshine, with hot summer days and cool, clear nights that show off a sky full of constellations. You will need sunscreen, water, and maybe a favorite hat, but winter here is far gentler than in northern states. Imagine waking up, stepping onto a small porch, and seeing open land and bright light instead of concrete walls and honking cars. For many retirees, that simple shift feels like a completely different life. Finally, number 1 is Parker, Arizona. If your dream involves desert cliffs, river views, and a bank account that isn't constantly under attack, Parker deserves your attention. The town sits along the Colorado River, delivering a blend of water recreation and dry climate that is rare at this price point. Typical homes tend to land in the mid-100s, with property taxes and other expenses staying below national averages. Utility costs spike during the hottest months, but overall the math still favors retirees compared with many crowded metros. There's a local hospital in town, and larger regional centers a reasonable drive away, so everyday care and specialized treatment are both on the table. Some programs help offset infrastructure or development costs for new arrivals, particularly for remote workers or small business owners. Daily life moves at the pace of boats on the river and locals running errands, not at the speed of freeway traffic. Rush hour often looks like a line of trucks towing jet skis toward the water. Weekends can get lively with events and races, but the town settles back into calm once the engines quiet down. The big trade-off here is heat. Summer doesn't sneak in. It walks straight up and cranks the thermostat. You'll drink more water than you thought possible, live in lightweight clothing for months, and become best friends with your air conditioning. But in exchange, you get mild winters, blazing sunsets, endless stars, and a lifestyle where outdoor living and financial breathing room work together instead of fighting for space. So here's the real question. If a town offered cash, free land, gentle taxes, and a calmer life, would you actually move, or would fear keep you stuck in an expensive zip code that no longer fits? If this countdown gave you new ideas for your own next chapter, tap like and help grow my channel so more people can see that retirement doesn't have to mean shrinking your life. You don't have to say yes today, but you do have to realize you finally have options now, real, tangible choices.